pain in the throat, the case of pharyngitis. A project by Brian Zinther and Jason Atkinson. Pharyngitis, Greek word for throat suffix, it's swelling, itis. Pharyngitis is a medical term for a sore throat, specifically inflammation of the pharynx, which is part of the throat located in the mouth and nasal cavity. Welcome to Equilibrium Falls, where balance is key. Hey friend, you found yourself in the big bold city of Equilibrium Falls. We often expect the welcome of all sorts of visitors in our city. However, lately we've had a certain amount of criminals, or what we call pathogens, that have been unbalancing everything that make Equilibrium Falls great. Diseases in the city hurts people and are usually caused when a new pathogen comes to the city. In simple terms, pathogens are the bad germs that make you sick when they enter your body through openings. A new pathogen can infect people because our bodies haven't seen it before. That means when you don't have immunity, no antibodies or memory cells to fight it. Pretty much weak. However, an old pathogen, on the other hand, won't infect as many people because they have had immunity from past infections or vaccines. Let me introduce you to Infection Detective. The Office of Infection Detective receives a phone call. A young man has reached out to the Infection Detective with a brand new case. The young man's girlfriend has fallen ill, is now showing signs of coming into contact with an infection. Some has symptoms of disease, and the young man has little information about what could be happening. It's up to the detective to find the sickness and stop from spreading and helping the young woman recover. Examining the damage. Sophie is a 25-year-old female who works at a telemarketing office that can barely speak without pain. She has headaches and a sore throat that hurts when swallows or talks, and her neck feels swollen around the glandular area there. She has a low-grade fever and is sweating just sitting down. She has felt this way for about 3 days. She's tried to sleep, eat healthy, rehydrate herself when she gets a common cold. She's normally otherwise healthy and has had some runs with minor infections in the past. However, recently, new infection has been seen hanging around her office. The infection came to her work desk and introduced himself about 4 days ago. The detective has uncovered suspect clues that is left behind for us to follow. Based on Sophie's description, she has had the following for the last 3 days, attempting home health care with no success. As she explained, recent exposure of the infection could have been from work. Sore throat, which is pain when swallowing or talking. The pharynx and tonsils are inflamed due to infection. Immune cells release chemicals that cause swelling, redness, and pain, making swallowing and talking uncomfortable. Your headache. Fever and inflammation trigger chemical signals and pressure changes in the blood vessels of the head. The immune system's response also could cause generalized pain. Your swollen neck or lymph nodes. Lymph nodes on the neck filter out pathogens to produce immune cells that fight an infection. When active, they swell and become tender. Your high-grade fever is the body's way of making the environment less favorable for the pathogens. When it's hot, they don't want to be home. The brain's hypothalamus raises body temperature to help immune cells work more effectively. Sweating, the fever increases body temperature, so sweating helps cool the body down, and the fever rises and falls. Your difficulty speaking is the swelling and the pain in the throat from the vocal cords and surrounding muscles, so talking is uncomfortable.
And now we'll take apart from the interview of the boyfriend and the infection detective. The infection detective asks a very good question. So this mysterious character came to her desk, hung around, is now taken off? And the boyfriend responds by saying, my girlfriend said her coworkers in her office have been visited by this mysterious character too. They have all come down with an infection called pharyngitis. I heard that you can get this pharyngitis stuff from a pathogen. What is this pharyngitis? Where does it come from? Is it tall? Is it wide? What does its body look like? Pharyngitis, as we've described already, is a disease. It's causing a lot of swelling. It's causing a lot of different symptoms in young Sophie. Here it's going to describe that it's not only transmitted by bacteria, it comes from viruses too. This is one of the few diseases out there that has both viral and bacterial implications. Here, we're going to talk about the top 3 forms of the virus that cause pharyngitis. After a little bit more of an interview from the infection detective, we start off with, do you have a better name for this guy? A better description? And the boyfriend responds with, "It has so many names I've heard. Group A strep or Streptococcus pyogenes, but I think it's better said S. pyogenes. Or maybe it's S. pyogenes, maybe it was one of the virus gang members like adeno or rhino or flu." This here is where the infection detective starts to write down his details of how he's going to be able to track down this type of person. Right here, what we have is bacilli, aka its shape. It is nice and small, little round projections. You have its strepto chains and how it's arranged. It's gram-positive, something you can put under a microscope and test its nice big layer with a couple different stains to see if it is gram-A positive, or gram-positive, sorry. It's aerotolerant, non-motile, non-sporing, beta-hemolytic. Cells are spherical and they measure about 0.5 to 1 micrometer. Facultative anaerobe, and it is catalase negative. So that means that it's involved with the Streptococci family, the crime family associated with the game genus Streptococcus. One more question. Why is it called Group A strep? Well, Group A strep is also going to be called gas. I know, you can stop laughing by now because everybody has had gas at some point. Group A strep also has a molecule on its surface that helps basically it not to be detected. It's called the Lancefield antigen. This is the only way that you can differentiate it as a Group A strep. The Lancefield Group A antigen sits on its surface. It's pretty much a nice fancy sugar protein molecule that'll help it not only get identified by physicians, but differentiated as well from other types of strep.
Our infection detective believes he knows where he can find this seedy criminal. He likes to hang out in the skeevy hotel, The Trapped Inn. Your S. pyogenes naturally reservoir is human skin. It hangs out there looking for ways to get internally circulated. It can colonize in the oropharynx or nasopharynx and doesn't normally live in water, soil, or other animals' host, but it might. Your pyogenes, S. pyogenes, cause several diseases. Cellulitis and scarlet fever and pharyngitis are the most popular. However, if the invasive pathogen gets into the fascia of the skin, it can cause necrotizing fasciitis. Attachments and modes of transmission. He's slick. He gets ways. So, contamination, coughing, sneezing, talking, and kissing. Saliva, mucus is expelled from the body and it lands on your everyday items, your doorknobs, your keyboards, your shelves, utensils, your office, your boyfriend, girlfriend, or wife's lip. Crowded, enclosed spaces, classrooms, public transport, things like that, make it a little bit more easier to contract. How it enters your body, your mouth and nose are the most common entry points. Pathogens are inhaled in tiny droplets from coughing or sneezing. Throat and pharynx, once inhaled, are touched with contaminated hands or touched with contaminated hands or pathogens attached to mucous membrane to the throat. Occasionally, eyes or broken skin, less common, but some viruses or bacteria can enter through these routes. Good hygiene, avoiding close contact with sick people and disinfecting surfaces can reduce catching pharyngitis. It is being transmitted through dirty people. Wash your hands. The infection detective just decides to explain this to the young man, medical terminology, so he understands the illness his girlfriend has encountered. Fibronectin is found in the ECM and is lining epithelial cell surfaces. The glycoproteins of S. pyogenes will create a strong attachment by latching onto the fibronectin of the epithelial cell and acting like a molecular glue. This binding to fibronectin will cause integrins to activate signals to alter cytoskeleton of the cell. M proteins are found on the surface of the S. pyogenes. They're like projections. With over 200 types, they work like lipoteoc. You see it. And protein F establishes colonization. S. pyogenes persist and set up infection, and once internalized, the bacteria are less exposed to antibodies and less detected by white blood cells. So the young man decides to look at the detective and goes, "I don't know what you're saying." So he breaks it down in layman terms. In short, bacteria have sticky parts, fibronectin binding proteins and M proteins that act like molecular glue to attach to your cells. This allows the bacteria to stay in your throat and skin, avoiding being washed away and potentially cause infection. Here on the incubation period,
Let's talk about incubation periods and what that actually means. Incubation period is the time it takes when a person is first exposed to the pathogen, like a virus or a bacteria, and when they start showing symptoms. As you can look at our screen here, we have listed the top 3 viruses that will cause pharyngitis. Pharyngitis is incubation period for adenovirus and rhinovirus and influenza virus are all different. They all need different times to incubate and to grow into something a little bit more powerful. They are all, but one, non-enveloped. Influenza A and B is enveloped. It's more spherical in shape, whereas the capsids on the adenovirus and the rhinovirus are icosahedral. As you look at more of the sizes that you see here, some of these virus pathogens are going to have to change in size and they will grow and shrink in time. Now let's get into the thick of the information. How does it avoid detection? Where is its alibi in this giant mystery? Well, viruses have many ways to stay prevalent inside of their hosts. The various ways are here, okay? I'm going to explain how it can avoid detection and stay infectious. One of these is the M protein anchors to the bacterium of epithelial cells and it prevents phagocytosis. One of the most powerful ways that it is able to stay prevalent inside of a human. Hyaluronic acid capsules are constructed with the same exact connective tissue, so therefore it can move through your connective tissue way easier and avoid being identified easier. And finally, we'll just touch upon, let's do ICAM1. What does ICAM1 even stand for? Intracellular adhesion molecule, aka it's a surface molecule that's going to help firmly attach to those epithelial cells. As you can see with the rest of it, all of these viruses have different means of staying alive inside the system. Staying alive, staying alive. Yes. Pause it.
pathogen identification. Finally, our infection detective has called our CD criminal. Identified through these different clues that he has left behind and to be linked with. So now that I've found you, it's time to test something that I'm going to start with a RADT, a rapid antigen detective test. So you may try a throat culture first. Look for B hemolytic colonies. Purpose is to detect specific proteins, antigens from bacteria, not the bacteria's DNA. The test strip has antibodies that specifically bind to antigens, so your asparagines. If the antigen is present in the throat swab, it sticks to the antibodies and triggers a visible line of color on the test strip. Positive line appears, bacteria antigen detected, likely strep infection. Negative, no line, antigen not detected, strep unlikely. You take Q-tip, open his mouth, and you swab it vigorously. Once the patient's throat and tonsils have been hit with a sterile swab, is placed into a solution that extracts bacterial proteins. A few drops of the solution are applied on the test strip. Wait a few minutes, 5 to 10, and then we know if you're guilty. Check the lines of color according to the test instructions. Now, your beta hemolytic colonies look like clear around the they're clear zone around the colonies. Bacteria completely break down red blood cells in the agar, creating a transparent or clear halo surrounding these colonies. That would be beta. Colony itself, usually small, round, and smooth, often slightly raised. Color with the colony white, gray, all around the area clear because of hemolysis. Now, we're also going to check to be positive that you infected that young woman. We'll as well do a PCR test or a polymerase chain reaction test. It will detect your genetic material and will help me solve this once and for all. Your PCR extracts genetic material from the sample, amplifies colonies, DNA, RNA, millions of times using a machine, detects even the tiniest amounts of pathogens DNA, making it sensitive. Detective, the results are in.
The results are in?
The results are in.
Perfect. The results are in. The pathogen was influenza. After talking to the bacteria for a short time, the infection detective, after performing his test, had found the results. And the results is that the bacteria was not the pathogen that infected the young woman. The results from the PCR came in, and it was evident that the culprit in infecting Sophie was no other than influenza A. Go to the next one. As you can tell from the photo, the infection detective now has found exactly who has infected the young woman. As he starts to chase the virus out of the police station, he starts to realize, how can I prevent this guy from getting any further? Well, you can wash your hands. Thoroughly washing your hands for 30 seconds with an antimicrobial soap usually is effective to be able to help prevent the transmission of these types of pathogens. Do not share utensils, drinks, towels, or anybody you know who is sick. That's a pretty obvious one. Don't share your towels with people. It's kind of gross. Cover those air droplets up. Make sure that you cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. A lot of us were raised to probably not cover their mouth when they're coughing. You were raised wrong. Stay hydrated. Water is life. Stay away from people who are currently ill. This is a big one. And the reality is that sometimes you cannot avoid the people who are sick in your life because you live with them or they're your coworkers and they show up to work anyways. You need to be able to make sure that you can keep washing your hands, hydrating, eating healthy. These are the means that you can prevent this. You can pause it.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
Let's talk about treatments. Treatments and how we can solve this together. Treatments for viral and bacterial pharyngitis include rest, hydration, pain relief with acetaminophen or ibuprofen, mild throat anesthetics like benzocaine. For bacterial, the ultimate way to get rid of these things is to have an antibiotic treatment. Penicillin is the first line of choice. It'll help destroy the thick peptidoglycan wall of the bacteria, and a serious backup is azithromycin. For viral, serious viral pharyngeal infections, most antivirals are not prescribed to people. If there is one to be prescribed to somebody, it's going to be Tamiflu, and it sometimes is only prescribed because it's not very effective towards influenza itself. It isn't recommended to take antibiotics if a pathogen is found to be viral. This is correct. Some doctors will order you a Z-Pak, azithromycin, hoping that the bacterial cells are going to be able to die off, therefore killing off the viral load. And as we come to our conclusion, Jason and I would like to thank you guys for watching this presentation of the Infection Detective. It is all in a few days' work. The Infection Detective has finally found the pathogen that causes pharyngitis in Sophie. As you can see, he's putting the pathogen here, the virus pathogen, into a WBC to circulate and protect white blood cell vehicle. The viral pathogen will be escorted away by the brave and bold WBCs, and a few short days later, Sophie made a full recovery from the virus. She needs to rest, drink water, and make sure to prevent the spread of the virus by isolating from her boyfriend and her coworkers. Equilibria Falls, yet again, has a balanced and safe system.
Son of a bitch. I told you.
That's funny as hell. And again, all in a few days' work. The Infection Detective has solved the case. Sophie is feeling a lot better. The WBCs are hauling away this mean-looking virus. And Sophie was able to rest, get some good nutrition and hydration. She was able to isolate from her boyfriend or her coworkers, therefore reducing the spread of this pathogen. Equilibria Falls, yet again, has a balanced and safe system. Or does it? Watch our second presentation when we cover oropharyngitis and nasopharyngitis.